Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. We're going to be joined by the School of Creative Arts, and we're going to be having a very interesting interactive session. So, today's session topic will be looking at how AI is impacting the design industry and creativity. So, before I start the session and pass over to Nick, I'm just going to introduce myself. So, my name's Jess. I work in the international office at the University of Hertfordshire. And so it's lovely to have you all join us today. The session is recorded. It's nothing to worry about, but we'll be able to send you all the session, the recording after the session, so you can watch it in your own time as well. Now, just in case any of you are new to Zoom, there should be a few different icons that you should be able to see on your screen. Now, the first is a chat icon, and you can start speaking to fellow participants. Maybe there'll be some future classmates as well in the session. And you should also be able to see a Q&A icon as well. Now, you can start asking questions that you have, and we'll be typing the answers to the questions during the session. And then at the end of the session, we can answer those live for you as well. Now, I'm going to pass over to Nick to introduce himself. And then, Nick, I think you've got your slides to share as well.
Yes, I have. Hello, everyone. Okay, I will just share my screen and just go. There we go. Okay. Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Nick.
Great. Okay. Okay. Firstly, thank you for joining this. And if you're watching the recording, I hope you get something out of it. And it's a really, really interesting subject matter. Sorry if you can see my face. One of my dogs wants to join in the chat. I am the deputy program leader of the graphic design and illustration degree courses here at the School of Creative Arts. So it's my job to make sure that they're all running smoothly, but I predominantly teach on the graphic design courses. I'm a graphic designer by profession, and I'm still a practicing designer. I still do freelance work along with everyone that teaches on my course. We're still professionals as well as academics. But I'm also here to talk about the School of Creative Arts generally. And there's lots of different courses that use AI or might potentially use AI. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them. So it's not specifically about graphic design, although most of the examples that I include or show will be about things that my students have done or things that are happening within our field. Um, so just firstly, the School of Creative Arts is just north of London. I'm sure you know this because you've been looking at the university already. But we're a campus university, and our proximity to London's really important for things like this um, because we have got a sort of wealth of people that come in from industry, and the creative industries in the UK is very much based in London, and we're a sort of short 25-minute train journey on from central London, and that makes it really easy to bring in very, very knowledgeable people who are at the forefront of the industry to come and teach. That's what we do an awful lot on our course, as well as on many of the other courses here at the university. So that's kind of the first thing. And so this is the talk. How is AI impacting creativity in the design industry? And it's the simple answer is it's having a huge impact already, and we're only in the very early stages of this. And some of it is positive and some of it is negative. And I'm sure that you have your own opinions on it. You might not be sure, but generally, certainly most of my students are either got sort of positive feelings towards it or negative feelings. But this is more about the sort of wider issues of how it's affecting industry, not just what's happening on our courses. So things are changing really, really rapidly. I gave a version of this talk 2 months ago, and some of what was in that presentation is already out of date. So I've updated this presentation with some more recent examples, some more relevant examples. the kind of thing projects that we were running last year are a bit out of date now, and it's rapid progress, which makes it very exciting, but also quite daunting as an academic about how you teach things. Um, so as I mentioned, there are lots and lots of different opinions about out there about AI, and they've people are very happy to talk about whether they think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Um, and I'm not going to sort of discuss the environmental impact or the ethical impact very much in this presentation. I think we're all aware of those concerns, and I will mention them occasionally. But it's also possible that you have used these tools. You might have used them more than I have. So yeah, this is a very open talk just about how it's affecting the sort of more business side of and the employment prospects, I suppose, of our fields. So firstly, this is a project that was done in 4 years ago, or actually no, it's 5 years ago now, by one of our students, and he was designing a piece of motion graphics, and he used AI technology to um, visualize surrealism in moving image. And actually, it works really well, because it AI at the time did look quite strange, these AI images, and it worked perfectly with his theme. So AI is not a new thing. You know, AI imagery has been around for over 10 years, but it's only in the last sort of 1 or 2 years that it's become really popular and much more common. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been getting advice from professionals. So someone like Thomas, for example, lives just down the road from us, and he's previously worked for Google. When he was working for Google, he invented a hieroglyphics translator for Google so that people could type in hieroglyphics. It's the first time it'd ever been done before. Um, and yeah, so he's very knowledgeable about AI technology, and he's been helping us and our students guide their way through this sort of really turbulent period. And this has been going on, yeah. So 5 years ago, he started teaching on our course, and he's very knowledgeable about this subject. And like this robot thing that you're looking at here is him doing a project with Louis Vuitton in their Beverly Hills shop, and they paid him to have this kind of AI robot installation with imagery that he'd made. But he now works for, he set up this agency here, which represents AI artists and video makers. Um, and yeah, he's very much at the forefront of this field. And what's really interesting about this, that all this imagery that you're seeing here is all AI generated, but none of it comes from like sort of chat GPT and things like that. All of it's the visual imagery in here is all generated from imagery that have been put into the software by the artists themselves. So it's not sort of AI slop in the traditional sense of it, where you're just ripping off other people's work. Everything in here is the artists go and feed in their own work, and then the AI technology generates new versions of essentially things they've already done. So this is kind of like more ethical AI, where the artist is very much in control of the imagery. And yeah, he set up this agency and is doing really well. Now, on the other hand, we've got companies like Studio Maros here. So this is some of their work. One of our graduates works for Studio Maros. They're a London-based illustration, animation, graphic design company. And you can see their style is really playful and fun. And Wale came in to give a talk and run a project with our students late last year, and he told our students that they've got an AI ban in their studio, so they do not use AI technology at all in any of their work. And that's because he sort of suspects, and his bosses think, that clients come to this company because of their originality. And they don't want to use AI technology because they don't think um, because they think the public can sort of see that it's things that AI generated. And so they've got a blanket ban. Um, and then you've got a company like Pentagram, one of the most famous design companies in the world. This is our students visiting their um, office in central London late last year, where one of the bosses at Pentagram was showing our students some of his poster designs. Now, he again has got an AI ban. He doesn't let any of him and his team use AI technology at all. But on the left-hand side, one of his business partners is very much embracing AI and using it to generate very interesting imagery and uh, sort of digital processes. So in the same company, you've got two very different points of view, which is this is where we're at the moment. Some people are embracing AI, some people are rejecting it. Um, One of our graduates works for an advertising agency called Weeden Kennedy. They're one of the most famous advertising agencies in the world. They've been Nike's main ad agency since the 1980s. So if you've seen a Nike campaign in recent years, the chances are they did it. So they're one of our graduates works there, and she came up to do a talk and for our students, and she was telling our students that this company have got an AI ban in the ideas stages of the project, but actually they use AI tools to help visualize certain things in adverts. They still don't use it much to visualize things, but yeah, in it's still a possibility, but it's banned from the ideas process. And that's because ad agencies are very worried about the intellectual property of their ideas. So if they use ChatGPT to generate ideas, they're not sure if someone else is going to go and generate the same concepts. And so, yeah, as a company, they've got a blanket ban on staff using AI tools to generate ideas. So again, it's just another point of view um, directly from some of the world's leading companies. So this advert here was actually was aimed at a UK audience. So you might not have seen this. I don't think this went out anywhere else in the world, but our student Hemi, our graduate, who graduated 6 years ago, did this project. She came up with the idea for this poster campaign, and it's for a popular pasta sauce in the UK. And she came up with this idea of pasta is naked without dolmio. And so she had this concept and she hired a photographer to take photos of pasta shapes looking kind of a bit like naked bodies, which is a really, really lovely idea. It won some awards for her. Um, this was with her last agency before she moved jobs recently. There is no way that AI can generate ideas like that at the moment. AI can only ever generate ideas, sort of variations of things that have been done before. It can't actually come up with unique ideas. It would never come up with that. And essentially, that is why, even though there's a lot of worry in the creative industries at the moment about AI replacing creatives, we're not worried about it as a profession and as a academic sort of career path because yeah, there are always going to be limitations to what AI can do. Um, as a course, we've always been based around clever ideas. We've always tried to really, really push our students to come up with very original concepts to everything they do. And that hasn't changed now. AI can come up with a brilliant idea for an ad campaign or a photo shoot or whatever it is within seconds, but it's always going to be based on what other people have already done in the past. And what we try and get our students to do is come up with ideas that haven't been done. And essentially, that's how the majority of the creative industry is looking at this at the moment. They are the majority of our fields, so branding, advertising, things like that, are using AI tools, but not particularly much. So when you see statistics like this is there's very much doom and gloom about graphic design and about photography and illustration and all sorts of career paths within the creative industries. Um, yes, lots and lots of careers and people's jobs are going to be affected by AI. And that's a real shame and it is a genuine issue. But the sorts of companies that we're talking to and our graduates go on and work with, they're still employing junior designers, but they want those junior designers to have kind of some knowledge and appreciation of AI, or they want their junior designers and junior creatives to be like to just have a brilliant sense of original work, you know, create work that AI could never do. So we're very well connected with some of the world's leading companies. Like Sean works for a company called JKR. They were responsible for redesigning Burger King worldwide recently, and he's advising graduates to just to embed some AI tools into their workflow. Now, it's not encouraging people to design everything using AI, and it's not encouraging people to to do anyone else out of a job, but it's just learning how to use some of these tools. Um, so this is the sort of general point of view of our course at the moment. On the other hand, you've got somebody like Julian. Julian lives and works in the US. He's mentors our students every year. So he's been a brilliant help for our students, and we do set up mentoring with industry professionals. And he posted this up on LinkedIn recently. And he said AI is for stupid, lazy people who have no craft or taste. Now, both of those opinions are completely valid. And what we would never do within the school is go and force you as a student to use AI if you don't want to use it. And that's, I think that's an important point to make. Some of our students are very much against it. I saw this recently. This was an image posted up by Apple Music to promote a new Lady Gaga album, I think, or perhaps song. And in the comments on Instagram, you can see that there was a lot of backlash against them using AI. Now, it is possible they went and made this candle for real and lit it, but to me, that does look like AI generated imagery. And at the moment, the general public sort of are either indifferent about AI imagery or they really, really don't like it, like this. And when we've had discussions about AI in class, and perhaps we've gone and some students have gone and used AI tools on our course, it's got quite heated like this. We've had, I mean, this is just a silly GIF that I found, but we've had, really, really strong debates on our course. And I've heard from other courses within the school as well that some students are using it and others aren't. And some people don't think that we should be using it at all. But that's a really, really healthy part of the university. We don't want everyone having the same opinions. And it's to our job as tutors to sort of help people to understand both sides of the debate and to sort of listen to other people's opinions. So, how are we currently using AI within the School of Creative Arts? Just before we get onto that, it's worth saying, just describing how we're not currently using AI within the School of Creative Arts. So, we are not using AI to generate just stuff like this. This is very much what I would, and many other people would call kind of AI slop. This is just using ChatGPT to make quick, easy pieces of design or illustration or photography using a prompt. And this is predominantly for non-designers to make posters. So I see posters like the one on the left everywhere at the moment. Um, and it allows people with no design skills to make something that looks functional and it does the job. It's better than, well, actually, I was going to say it's better than something scribbled on a piece of paper, but perhaps it isn't. But none of our students are making work that looks like this. So we are not using AI tools to generate entire pieces of design. We think this is bad. There's no point our students doing stuff like this because essentially non-designers can make things like this. So there's no point going to university to learn how to be a brilliant designer or a creative if you're just going to go and do stuff like this. So effectively, we've got a ban on students making work like this. So there are lots and lots of different courses within the School of Creative Arts that use digital technology. I'm not sure which one you're particularly interested in at the moment, whether it's undergrad or postgraduate. But I can talk a little bit about what's happening on our particular course. So that's graphic design, advertising, branding, and illustration. So currently we're using it as a research tool. AI tools are amazing for doing really, really quick bits of research. They really speed up the research process and allow students to get onto the kind of creative side quicker. And it can obviously we need to sort of check some of the results that AI tools give you because they're not always accurate, but generally it's a brilliant research tool. We also use AI to um, just quickly give students ideas. So if we set students a brief to design a poster, for example, we get them to use things like ChatGPT to generate ideas, straight away, the first morning that they're given that project. And then we go and analyze them. And actually, they're not bad, but they're never brilliant. AI at the moment just cannot give you brilliant ideas. It'll give you something that is sounds pretty good, and it'll give you something that is like does the job. But we would call that just a vanilla idea, just a boring, plain. But actually, that's kind of useful because at least you've got a starting point. And then importantly, you know what to avoid. So, like I said earlier, it's pointless going to university if you're just going to go and make boring work that a non-designer could make anyway. So then very quickly, within half an hour, the students know what a kind of boring idea is, and then they can go and think of, right, okay, now I know what to avoid, and now I can go and head and really, really think of something that is completely unexpected. We're also using AI tools to help our students code. Again, that's really, really sped up that process. I'll show you an example of that in a moment. We're using AI tools to critique work as well. So you, if our students come up with a concept, they might put that idea into a tool like ChatGPT and then ask ChatGPT to sort of say, okay, how can I improve this? Or would this idea work for my particular target audience? And actually, you can work with AI tools if you want to help make your concepts better. Um, that's how generative AI tools are used in lots of agencies at the moment, just to help move things along and to work as a bit of a creative partner. And visually, it's helping our students to quickly visualize concepts. Okay, I'll show you some examples. So last year, one of our students was working on a project to redesign or to come up with a concept for a non-alcoholic whiskey. And so one of the big drinks manufacturers approached us with a brief and sort of said, how can we help visualize and come up with a branding for this new maker's mark? non-alcoholic drink, and it was this student said, okay, I think this might appeal. Whiskey's seen as quite a masculine drink, so how do we make whiskey a bit more feminine? And she said, okay, how, perhaps I could make the packaging look more like a perfume. And we said, okay, well, I'm not quite sure how that would work. And traditionally, using Photoshop or something like that, she would then have to go away and spend half a day quickly mocking some packaging designs up to see what that might look like. But AI allows you to kind of really quickly visualize a concept of what it might look like. So this is the process that she went through. And then about half an hour, she came back with this image here, which is like just a quick mock-up of what that whiskey packaging might look like. And then we said, yeah, okay, there is, perhaps this is a little bit too feminine. It would really put off a lot of men, this packaging, but actually there might be something in that, of having the flowers subtly in the bottle. So again, it's speeding up the process. So we don't think this is, we have got no problem with the ethics of this. It's not doing anyone out of a job. It's just helping the design process along and make things a bit quicker. Um, Charlotte here did a project last year, which is a data visualization project, and it was all about being an only child. She's an only child, and she wanted to help visualize statistics about how people feel about being an only child themselves and about how people view people that are only children. And she gathered all this data. And traditionally, that would take a huge amount of time to go and visualize in graph form. But she used ChatGPT to go and analyze all the data and then work out code that she could use in a bit of software called processing, which went and generated all these different, these are graphs, and they represent data, but they're sort of pretty decorative objects in their own way. Again, that would have taken her weeks to do previously, but it really sped up that process into a matter of days. So where are we heading? This is a sort of big question of where the industry is heading. So these are my kind of loose thoughts at the moment. Um, so firstly, let me just turn that sound off. You've got companies like Field. They're based in London. They do amazing work for very high profile companies, and they've been leading the way in AI technology and in visual design for quite some years now. And you've got companies like this that are absolute masters at the field. So on the left there, for example, they went and did this piece in Times Square, and all those kites there are AI generated, and they're actually based on the characteristics of the staff that work for the company. So they put into AI whether somebody feels flamboyant or quite shy, and they programmed all this in and made these visuals of kites. And then on the right there, you've got them exploring, really beautiful imagery. All this is AI generated, and effectively, it's they would have done this in special effects, in 3D tools previously, but now they use AI tools. So one thing that our school is prepared for is for our students to go and work for companies like this that are at the absolute forefront of technology. Again, it's not producing AI slop. These aren't just rubbish chat GPT posters. This is stunning work for very high profile businesses. And again, they just turn that sound off. These are some portraits again that they did of the staff in um, using AI tools. So it's kind of like instead of a photo shoot, each member of staff went and created their own portrait, based on their personality traits. It's sort of like a ongoing theme in the business. And they use tools like this. There's a lot of different tools out there that cost quite a lot of money. We're quite conscious of that. And professionally, if you want to use these things, it does cost quite a lot. But thankfully, Adobe is catching up with these tools, and all our students have access to Adobe tools either on campus or on their home computers to go and sort of start playing around with this stuff if you're interested. Um, Something else that's relevant to our students is something like this. So this is a website called exactly.ai, and it's aimed at professional illustrators. And it allows you to go and upload lots of your own work. And then the AI system creates variations of your own work. Um, so if you went to make some illustrations of London landmarks and you spent hours making that in Adobe Illustrator or 3D software, and then you go and make five of them and then upload them into this software, it could potentially go and make variations of other landmarks in your own style, but without you having to actually do the hard work. And again, I suspect this will become a more common thing for if you've got a really unique style. AI tools can help you just make work quicker, and it can help sort of protect your style and from anyone else copying it, really. Again, as I said, Adobe are sort of catching up with their AI tools and within Photoshop now, and you've got sort of quite powerful tools to go and help visualize stuff. Lots of our students were using this tool here, which allows you to go and add products into realistic situations here. So again, we're showing our students how to do stuff like this. And yeah, it's just helps speed up the process of what was a very boring, slow task in Photoshop. Um, in the future, and I've heard this from a few different people, like people that work for software companies and professional designers, that in the next sort of 5, 10 years, design software is going to move from what we now know, which is like various tools that you press the button on in the software, through to you being skilled at prompting. So just writing what you want. So instead of you knowing, being an expert in what every button in Photoshop does, for example, where the skill in the future is going to be is being able to describe what you want Photoshop to do. So if you want a pair of trainers to be on a beach but 100 feet tall, um, you need to be able to describe the lighting and what type of beach you want, and do you want it to look like it's in a storm or in the summer? And essentially, it's less of a technical skill and more of a creative skill, and so this is where we're heading towards in terms of creativity. The creative industries want people with original ideas who can communicate really, really clearly, rather than somebody that can spend hours on a piece of software, looking at pixel perfect detail. That attention to detail is still going to be important, but this is sort of where creativity is heading in terms of our course. So taste, intention, and empathy are going to be really crucial tools. So they always have been. That's the thing. This isn't new, but this is the students and graduates that have got great taste and are really clear about what they want and can really understand audiences and clients are going to be the ones that succeed. This idea of kind of aesthetic intelligence is kind of what we're trying to do within the school. So, just a few more points to round off. In an age where authenticity of words and imagery is automatically questioned, like I just showed you with that Lady Gaga image, um, the general public is suspicious of imagery now. And it's kind of people question whether things are real. So craft is more important than ever, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. So we think that the kind of creative industries are going to go into two areas. One of them are just quick, cheap pieces of design like this. So whether that's a poster to promote St. Patrick's Day on the left, or this is a real advert for Auto Trader, which is a kind of website where people sell cars in the UK. Um, this is obviously AI generated images. Now, do the general public care that it's AI generated? Probably not. They still might go to that delicatessen, they still might go to Auto Trader. It doesn't really matter. So, um, there is companies will use AI, and I don't think they'll particularly care that the audience know that AI was used. On the other hand, you've got people like this. So this is someone called Gillian Hobbs. She is a sort of former graphic designer, but now she's generating imagery for fashion magazines. So effectively, she's a photographer, but all this is AI generated. And again, she puts in her own imagery into this. This isn't ripping off a professional photographer's work. Um, so a photographer might go and do a photo shoot, send her the photos of a particular model, and then she goes and uses AI tools to go and reimagine different angles or wearing different clothes. And then she goes and adds her own style on top. So, like these hand-drawn squiggles are all her bits of her drawing. And again, it's these are AI generated, but there's an element of craft and real professionalism, and they're beautiful images in their own right. And they're a long way away from this stuff here. And again, we think that the creative industries are going to split into the cheap, cheerful stuff and the beautiful, kind of beautifully crafted world as well. So this is another example here. So Apple TV recently um, relaunched an ident. So when you start up Apple TV, you'll see this thing here. Now they could have made that using special effects, or they could have made it using AI tools, but they didn't. This is what they went and did. Just turn the sound off. So that is real. It was all filmed with bits of perspex or glass in a real film and TV studio with real lights and a real camera. And but they could have gone for the cheap and cheerful option, but they didn't. So again, this is where we think we're going. Companies willing to invest a lot of time and effort and money into things that aren't AI crafted. This is one more example. So this is an advert for Porsche that was done earlier this year, and it's just it's sort of manga-esque style Japanese animation, and it's there to promote you know, Porsche's a brand, and there's all sorts of clues in here if you're a Porsche fan. Every little bit of iconography in here, and every car is designed to excite Porsche fans. Again, they could have gone and done that using AI tools um, quite easily, but they didn't. They went and approached a real animation studio, and every frame in that is hand drawn, hand animated, um, and you can tell it wouldn't have looked the same. It wouldn't have looked as authentic if they'd actually done the same, but in AI. And when you viewed that on YouTube, um, they said, they've written in there handcrafted by Parallel Studios. They've mentioned the name of the company that animated it as a way of saying we didn't use AI to do this. So, yeah, this is why we're not worried about AI's impact on the creative industries. Yes, it is going to make lots of creative people redundant, but then they are the kind of people that aren't doing particularly creative work. If you make sure that you're doing like really original stuff, making really beautiful work, there is still a really, really um, healthy kind of career path for you in this field. The kind of employers that we speak to are not worried about this at all, which is fantastic to hear. And obviously, we're very well connected with lots and lots of places in London, and we know that it's going to turn everything upside down. But generally, there's a sense of excitement about it. Okay, that is my talk. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nick. That was fantastic. I'll just put my camera back on. Absolutely brilliant. I learned so much within that session. And it's really interesting to hear that lots of companies aren't using AI. So yeah, I found that fascinating. Thank you, Nick. I'm just going to share my slides, everybody. So we've now got the Q&A, everybody. So, oh, hopefully you can see my screen. Here we are. Fantastic. So we'll now move on to the Q&A. So I don't know if anybody, has any questions they want to ask Nick. If you do, please post it in the Q&A section that you should be able to see. But Nick, I've got a few different questions that I can ask you here.
Yeah.
So a few frequently asked questions. So the first one would be, what are your top tips for new international students that will be joining the University of Hertfordshire in September?
Um, that's a good point. I mean, I appreciate there's um applicants here from all sorts of courses and all around the world, but generally, I the way that we teach within the school is quite industry focused, and that's not always the same on around the world. So we would want our students to have knowledge of the industry that they want to go into. Now, you might not know exactly what job you want, but if you're coming onto a graphic design course, we would want you to know who the best graphic design agencies in the world are. If you were coming onto a interactive course, who are designing the best websites at the moment or the most amazing interactive installations. And the analogy that I give is if like somebody has got their heart set on becoming a professional footballer, quite often we have students starting on our course that can't name any design studios. And that's a bit like a professional, somebody who wants to become a professional footballer, not being able to name any football clubs. And so if you can just read the design press, which is online, and find out, not just companies that make okay work, but who's making the absolute best work in the world at the moment, and then follow them on social media. Um, that's it really. And it becomes like just a daily source of inspiration of amazing work. That's my main bit of advice.
Brilliant top tip. And yeah, absolutely, for people to really research their field and have that knowledge and that inspiration as well. It's also probably things that they can strive towards whilst they're studying their course, to think, actually, I'd really love to work for these companies. I want to be doing that work as well.
Yeah.
So that sounds brilliant. Thank you so much, Nick. So I can't see any questions coming in, so I'll just ask another frequently asked question just whilst we're waiting. So what are the main assessment methods used within the School of Creative Arts when students are studying with us?
Um, we That's a good point. I mean, to state the obvious again, because it's not always the same around the world. I'm not aware of any course within the school that has exams for a start. Um, it is always coursework. So generally, some of the projects on our course might only last a week, and then the deadline is on, the following Monday kind of thing. But generally, the projects tend to last 3, 4, 5 weeks, and you get regular tuition about that project and sort of regular feedback in for that particular assignment. There's probably one assignment going on at any one time. And then, yeah, just so and gradually those projects build up into achieving your overall grade. And it's, yes, sometimes students do, one project doesn't particularly work out, and yeah, generally it doesn't matter. So it's quite low pressure. Yeah, no exams, and increasingly there isn't sort of traditional written essays on a lot of the courses now. There is always writing to do. But again, this is sort of partly influenced by AI, because ChatGPT can write like a pretty decent essay within minutes. We've moved towards projects where students have to write about the project that they're doing at the moment, and it's, yeah. So not many of the courses have like a traditional essay element anymore. There will always be writing, as I said, but yeah, that's sort of slowly being phased out.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick. I think that's really worth students being aware of the assessment methods, and that is something we're often asked.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. I haven't got any further questions, so I'll from anybody at all at the moment. So I'll just ask you a final frequently asked question from me, Nick.
Yeah.
And then if anybody has any questions, you can post them. But if not, then we can start rounding up the session. But another frequently asked question: are there any research opportunities for students within the School of Creative Arts? And if so, what would it look like?
Um, I mean, there there is always research, but in our school, it's almost always practical research. So we have some tutors on the course who write about graphic design, and then that writing is then published in a journal or a magazine or something. But generally, most of the people that teach on the course, their research is practical research. So they might go and learn new piece of software, or they might have an exhibition, or I go and work in design agencies, and that is my research because I need to learn how they work. And from a student point of view, the emphasis is on sort of just practical experience. So quite a lot of our students go and do work experience in agencies, which is sort of mirroring what I do. Or there's companies that come in and offer prizes for them doing design work, so sort of freelance work. Um, and then we run projects with external companies, where the students' work is actually used. So it's all counted as research in the sort of widest sense, but it's not traditional academic research.
Yeah, but that sound absolutely brilliant and yeah, really useful for students as well. And great that you're doing the research as well by going to different industries and
Yeah.
different companies. So is it advertisement companies that you're mainly going to?
Yeah, I mean, I just go and hang out in a variety of different. Some of them are ad agencies, some of them are kind of branding companies. I mean, my background's in television, so I worked for TV companies before I worked here. So yeah, variety of different firms.
That's fantastic. Oh, well, thank you so much, Nick, for that. I can't see any further questions, everybody. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'm just going to show you all. This is our kind of main ways that you can contact the university. So, you can always contact us. We've got our email address on there, our phone number. Obviously, you can contact us via Facebook or X. We've also got, Instagram as well. So any questions, everybody, please do let us know. But this is the end of the session today. So just want to say a massive thank you to Nick for the presentation that you delivered. It was really interesting and really useful. And we will email this out to our offer holders. But I hope everybody has a lovely day. And hopefully we'll see you all on campus in September.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.